Honesty is treated as virtue only when it is harmless. The moment your honesty creates friction, threatens advantage, or exposes imbalance, it becomes a liability. The world does not punish dishonesty first. It punishes transparency first. When you reveal intentions, doubts, limits, or truths without securing position, you make yourself readable. And what is readable can be targeted. Machiavelli was right. Power does not reward those who speak truth openly. It rewards those who control when truth appears. And to whom? Honest people are punished early because they remove uncertainty, and uncertainty is the only thing that restrains opportunists. Here is the brutal reality. Honesty shortens the distance between thought and exposure. When you say exactly what you think, others no longer need to guess your limits. They know how far they can push you, what offends you, what you value, and what you fear losing. That information is not met with respect, it is converted into leverage. People who profit from ambiguity survive longer than those who clarify too soon. The honest person believes truth creates trust. The strategist knows truth creates vulnerability. When released without control, the world rewards discretion, not sincerity. Honest people assume that being morally correct protects them. It does not. It isolates them. It makes them predictable. It turns them into reference points while others maneuver quietly. Those who conceal intention are free to adapt. Those who expose it are held to it. That is why honest people are punished first. Not because honesty is wrong, but because it is premature. Power is not built by revealing truth. It is built by deciding when truth becomes useful. If you want to understand how this works in real situations, stay until the end. Comment, controlled truth. So I know who understands timing. Subscribe to Dark Psychology Blueprint, turn on notifications, and stay close. The next breakdown shows how strategic silence outperforms moral transparency in every power structure. This is at normallive.doc/blue. Honesty removes uncertainty, and uncertainty is protection. Uncertainty is not weakness, it is insulation. When people cannot fully read your intentions, limits, or next move, they are forced to slow down. They calculate, they hesitate, they restrain themselves, because error carries risk. Honesty collapses that buffer. The moment you state exactly what you want, what you believe, or what you will tolerate, you eliminate ambiguity. You hand others a clear map of your position. Machiavelli understood that clarity benefits observers more than speakers. Once your stance is visible, others no longer need to guess how to pressure you, where to challenge you, or what to exploit. Uncertainty protects because it keeps opponents unsure of the cost of interference. Human behavior adjusts to risk, not morality. When people know precisely how you will react, they adapt their strategy accordingly. They push just short of your stated limit. They comply superficially while undermining you elsewhere. They manipulate language around your declared values. Honesty gives them the framework. Uncertainty denies it. A person who speaks openly believes transparency builds trust. In reality, transparency builds predictability, and predictability is the raw material of control. Power does not operate in environments of full disclosure. It operates where outcomes are unclear and missteps are dangerous. Uncertainty also preserves flexibility. When you are honest too early, you lock yourself into a narrative. Others hold you accountable to words rather than outcomes. They weaponize your consistency against you, calling adaptation hypocrisy or weakness. Machiavelli warned against this trap. A ruler must be free to change course without being morally cornered. Uncertainty allows adjustment without explanation. Silence allows repositioning without scrutiny. When you withhold clarity, you retain the ability to adapt as conditions shift. When you over-explain, You become trapped by your own declarations. This is why the world punishes honest people first, not because honesty is immoral, but because it is defenseless when unguarded. Honest individuals assume others will meet truth with restraint. Instead, truth is mined for advantage. The strategist does not lie unnecessarily. He delays disclosure until it produces benefit. He understands that protection comes from not being fully known. Uncertainty forces respect because it introduces risk. Once that risk disappears, intrusion follows. Machiavelli's conclusion is direct. Visibility invites pressure. Clarity invites manipulation. And uncertainty remains the last quiet shield against those who would use what you reveal against you. Truth revealed too early becomes leverage for others. Truth is not dangerous by nature. Timing is. When you reveal information before securing position, you reverse the balance of power. You assume honesty creates alignment, but alignment is rarely the goal of those listening. The early disclosure of intentions, limits, plans, or doubts gives others the advantage of preparation. They can adapt while you remain fixed. They can interfere before momentum builds. Machiavelli understood that information is not moral currency. It is strategic material. When you give it away prematurely, you surrender initiative. You allow others to shape outcomes before you have the authority or leverage to resist them. Like resistance, charges all. Early truth creates asymmetry. The listener gains clarity while you gain nothing in return. They now know what matters to you, what you fear losing, and what outcome you are pursuing. With that knowledge, they can stall, redirect, or sabotage quietly. They can frame alternatives that appear cooperative but serve their interests. They can pressure you at precisely the points you exposed. You may believe you are being transparent. They understand they are being armed. In power dynamics, the one who knows more acts last. The one who speaks first commits first. And commitment without protection is weakness. Truth revealed too early also freezes your flexibility. Once you declare your position, others hold you to it. Any deviation is labeled inconsistency, unreliability, or lack of principle. You become morally cornered by your own disclosure. Machiavelli warned against this trap because it strips a strategist of adaptation. Conditions change, incentives shift, alliances realign. The person who spoke too soon must now defend yesterday's truth in today's environment. Meanwhile, those who withheld information remain free to pivot. Silence preserves mobility. Premature honesty creates obligation without advantage. This is why honest people are punished first. They assume truth earns protection. Instead, it invites control. Others do not reward early disclosure with restraint. They convert it into leverage. The strategist does not lie compulsively, but he understands sequence. He waits until the truth strengthens his position, rather than exposing it. He releases information only when interference is no longer possible, or when consequence favors him. Machiavelli's logic is unforgiving. Information belongs to the one who can afford to reveal it. If you cannot absorb resistance, you cannot afford transparency. Truth, when mistimed, is not virtue. It is vulnerability, turned into a weapon by those who know how to use it. Honest people expose intentions before securing position. Intention is not neutral information, it is strategic intelligence. The moment you reveal what you are trying to achieve before you possess authority, leverage, or protection, you invite resistance. Honest people believe stating intent signals integrity and builds trust. In reality, it signals vulnerability. It tells others where to obstruct, delay, or redirect you. Machiavelli understood that intention should never precede power. Once your objective is known, others no longer react to you. They react against your goal. They prepare countermeasures while you are still assembling momentum. By exposing intent early, you convert potential allies into evaluators. and potential competitors into active threats. Exposing intention also creates premature accountability. Once people know what you want, they begin judging you before you act. They question feasibility, criticize ambition, and impose expectations. You are no longer operating in silence. You are operating under observation. That scrutiny drains energy and compresses options. You must now defend direction instead of advancing it. Machiavelli warned against this because attention attracts interference. The honest individual believes transparency earns support. The strategist knows it attracts management. When your intent is public, others feel entitled to shape it. They offer advice that dilutes strategy, conditions that weaken execution, and timelines that slow progress. You lose control of pacing the moment intention becomes communal knowledge. There is also a psychological cost. When you announce intentions early, you bind your identity to outcomes not yet secured. Failure becomes reputational, not experimental. Adaptation becomes embarrassment. Retreat becomes defeat. This creates pressure to persist even when conditions change. Machiavelli valued flexibility above consistency because survival requires adjustment. Exposed intention limits adjustment. Others remind you of your words when you try to pivot. They accuse you of lacking conviction or integrity. In truth, they are exploiting your transparency to restrict your movement. The silent strategist avoids this trap by letting outcomes speak instead of promises. This is why honest people are often blocked before they begin. Their intentions alert the environment too soon. Power structures resist openly stated ambition, especially when it threatens existing arrangements. The strategist does not announce direction. He establishes position. He secures resources, alliances, and exits before revealing purpose. By the time his intention becomes visible, interference is irrelevant. Machiavelli's lesson is direct. Intention revealed without protection is an invitation to be managed. If you want to act freely, keep your objective concealed until resistance can no longer alter the outcome. Power favors those who arrive quietly and speak last. Transparency creates predictability. Predictability invites control. Predictability is comfort for observers and danger for operators. When you make your thoughts, emotions, intentions, and reactions transparent, you remove uncertainty from the environment. Others no longer need to calculate how to approach you. They know how you respond under pressure, how you behave when challenged, and what compromises you are willing to make. That knowledge turns interaction into management. Machiavelli understood that the predictable individual is no longer a variable. He is a system, and systems are controlled. Transparency does not make you trustworthy. It makes you readable. And what is readable can be adjusted, exploited, or neutralized. Control depends on anticipation. If others can anticipate your reactions, they can shape events to produce the response they want. They time requests when you are most compliant. They introduce pressure when you are least resistant. They frame arguments in language that aligns with your declared values. Transparency hands them this advantage voluntarily. You believe openness signals strength. In reality, it signals exposure. Power structures do not fear honesty, they rely on it. Honest, transparent people reveal their operating logic, and once that logic is known, it becomes programmable. You stop acting freely and start behaving as expected. Predictability also limits your freedom to adapt. When you are transparent, others attach you to a narrative. They expect consistency even when circumstances change. Any deviation is labeled instability, hypocrisy, or lack of principle. Machiavelli warned against this moral trap because it immobilizes strategy. The world shifts constantly. Incentives change. Alliances decay. The person who must remain consistent to preserve reputation becomes slow and fragile. Meanwhile, those who remain opaque adjust quietly. transparency turns adaptability into liability. It forces you to explain why you changed instead of allowing you to change because it was necessary. This is why predictability invites control. People do not control what surprises them, they control what behaves reliably. When your transparency eliminates surprise, you become manageable. Others push boundaries because they know where they are. They pressure you because they know how much you will tolerate. They manipulate you because they know which moral buttons to press. The strategist avoids this by limiting disclosure. He does not lie compulsively, he withholds. He does not announce reactions, he delays them. He does not expose values to debate, he enforces outcomes. Machiavelli's conclusion is blunt. The less others can predict you, the less they can control you. Transparency feels virtuous, but uncertainty is what keeps power intact. Moral consistency limits adaptability. Moral consistency is praised as integrity, but in power dynamics it often functions as a restraint. When you bind yourself rigidly to a fixed moral posture, you reduce your ability to respond to changing conditions. You become predictable, not only in action, but in limitation. Machiavelli observed that survival favors those who can adjust methods while preserving objectives. The individual who insists on acting the same way in every situation is easy to plan against. Opponents learn your rules and design strategies that exploit them. Moral rigidity turns principles into constraints, and constraints invite manipulation. Power does not oppose morality. It opposes inflexibility. Adaptability requires the freedom to change tactics without seeking moral permission. When you declare what you will never do, others simply maneuver you into positions where your own code paralyzes you. They appeal to your stated values, shame you with your own standards, and force you into defensive explanations. This is how moral consistency becomes a leash. You are no longer choosing actions based on effectiveness, you are choosing them based on self-affection. Machiavelli warned that a leader who cannot deviate from virtue when necessary will be destroyed by those who have no such restrictions. Consistency feels noble, but it removes optionality, and optionality is the core of power. Moral consistency also locks you into past declarations. Once you publicly commit to a rigid ethical stance, adaptation becomes reputational risk. Any adjustment is framed as hypocrisy rather than strategy. You are judged not by results, but by alignment with a narrative you announced under different conditions. This prevents course correction. It forces you to defend outdated positions long after they stop serving you. The strategist avoids this trap by keeping values internal and actions situational. He does not advertise moral boundaries that can later be weaponized. He preserves ambiguity so that change looks like judgment, not betrayal. This is why the world punishes morally consistent people first. Not because morality is wrong, but because it is inflexible when exposed. The adaptable survive because they can shift without explanation. They are not anchored to public virtue, they are anchored to outcome. Machiavelli's logic is unforgiving. Morality that cannot bend will break. Principles must guide direction, not dictate method. When moral consistency limits adaptability, it ceases to be virtue and becomes vulnerability. Power belongs to those who understand that survival requires adjustment, and adjustment requires freedom from rigid moral performance. Honesty assumes goodwill where self-interest dominates. Honesty is built on an assumption that is rarely true, that others will receive truth with fairness, restraint, and reciprocity. This assumption collapses the moment incentives conflict. Human behavior is not guided by goodwill, it is guided by advantage. Machiavelli understood that people interpret information through self-interest first and morality second. When you are honest without protection, you give others material they will reinterpret to serve themselves. They do not ask, "Is this fair?" They ask, "How does this benefit me?" The honest person believes truth aligns interests. The strategist knows truth exposes interests, and exposed interests are contested. Self-interest does not require malice, it requires opportunity. When you reveal weaknesses, intentions, fears, or ethical limits, others do not need to be corrupt to use them. They only need to be practical. They adjust behavior, timing, and pressure points accordingly. They appeal to your values when it suits them and ignore them when it does not. Honesty assumes a shared moral framework. Power operates in fragmented frameworks, where each actor optimizes for their own outcome. Machiavelli warned that rulers who expect others to act virtuously invite exploitation. Expectation is not protection, only leverage is. Honest people are often shocked when transparency backfires. They reveal concerns expecting collaboration and receive resistance instead. They admit uncertainty, expecting support, and receive dominance. They share intentions, expecting alignment, and receive obstruction. The mistake is not honesty itself, it is the assumption that truth produces cooperation. In reality, truth produces reaction, and reality follows self-interest. Once others know what matters to you, they can delay, deny, reframe, or extract. They are not betraying you, they are responding rationally to advantage. The honest person feels wronged because they expected moral symmetry. Machiavelli would say that expectation was the error. This is why honesty is punished first. It presumes a world that does not exist, a world where people restrain themselves because something is fair, a world where power yields to virtue. The strategist operates in the real world, where self-interest is constant and morality is selective. He does not lie compulsively, but he does not reveal truth without insurance. He understands that goodwill must be earned through alignment, not assumed through sincerity. Honesty without leverage is a gamble against human nature. Machiavelli's conclusion is direct. Trust must be engineered, not presumed. Until then, truth remains a liability, not because it is wrong, but because it is unguarded in a world ruled by advantage. The world rewards control of information, not disclosure of it. Information is the currency of power, and like any currency, its value depends on scarcity and timing. Those who disclose freely devalue themselves. Those who control flow dictate outcomes. Machiavelli understood that the advantage does not belong to the one who knows the truth, but to the one who decides when the truth appears. Disclosure feels virtuous, but virtue without leverage is irrelevant. When you reveal information openly, you surrender initiative. Others react while you remain exposed. When you control information, you force others to move in partial darkness. They guess, hesitate, and adjust without certainty. That asymmetry is not accidental. It is the architecture of influence. Control of information determines hierarchy. The one who speaks first commits first. The one who commits first can be managed. Disclosure locks you into positions that others can exploit, reinterpret, or delay. Silence preserves optionality. It allows you to observe reactions without revealing motive. It lets you test loyalty without announcing intention. It enables repositioning without explanation. The world rewards this because it mirrors how institutions operate. Executives release selectively. Governments brief partially. Negotiators withhold until terms are secured. Those who disclose everything are not trusted with power. They are managed by those who do not. Disclosure also creates dependency. When you explain, clarify, and justify continuously, you train others to expect access to your reasoning. They demand transparency not for fairness, but for control. They want to know your limits so they can press them. They want to know your values so they can shame you. They want to know your plans so they can interfere. Control of information denies them these tools. It forces others to engage with outcomes rather than narratives. Machiavelli would say that a ruler who explains himself loses authority Because authority depends on distance. Distance preserves mystery, and mystery preserves obedience. This is why the world elevates those who speak last. They are not more honest, they are more strategic. They understand that information released without protection becomes leverage against the speaker. They understand that silence is not emptiness, it is containment. When you control information, you control tempo, expectation, and reaction. Others adapt to you because they lack clarity. You adapt to no one because you lack exposure. Machiavelli's conclusion is blunt. Truth is not rewarded for existing, it is rewarded for being deployed. The one who controls information controls consequence. The one who discloses freely becomes subject to it. Honesty is not power, control is. Truth does not protect you when released without leverage, it exposes you. The world does not punish sincerity because it is immoral, it punishes it because it is premature. Power belongs to those who decide when clarity appears and who is allowed to see it. Speak less, reveal later, move first. That is how advantage survives. If you stayed until the end, comment timing over truth so I know who understands information control. Subscribe to Dark Psychology Blueprint, turn on notifications, and stay ready. The next breakdown reveals how strategic silence dismantles manipulation before it begins.